What if I told you that within you there is a power that very few people ever discover? A power that does not depend on your story, your past, your circumstances, or on what others say or do. A power that is available in every single moment, waiting for you to decide to activate it. It is the ability to choose how you respond to what you feel. Because here is the truth that sets you free. You are not your emotions. You are something infinitely greater. You are the consciousness that observes them, the presence that can notice them without being dragged away by them. And when you truly understand this, absolutely everything changes. Emotions are like visitors. They arrive with force, they bring messages, they shake your inner world, but they don't have to keep hold of the controls of your life. They don't have to decide for you, ruin your days, or define who you are. They can move through you without destroying you. They can be present without becoming your owners. Today you're going to discover something extraordinary. That mastering your emotions does not mean repressing them or ignoring them, but learning to relate to them from a place of strength. It is developing the ability to feel deeply without losing your center. It is taking back the steering wheel of your life even when, inside you, everything seems to be in the middle of a storm. These 10 lessons you're about to learn are proven tools, principles that have transformed the lives of those who have applied them sincerely. They are paths that lead to a kind of freedom you may never have imagined possible, the freedom to live without being a prisoner of what you feel. And if you decide to walk this path, you're not only going to survive your emotional storms, you're going to learn to move through them with dignity, with clarity, and with a serenity that comes from knowing who you really are. But before we continue, I want to propose something simple, yet powerful. Write in the comments, "I am not my emotions, I am the one who observes them." By doing so, you're declaring that you choose to be aware of your power. And that choice changes everything. Now then, let's begin. Lesson 1. No emotion is eternal. Everything always changes. No emotion lasts forever. Absolutely everything is in constant change. The seasons replace one another. Day turns into night. Wounds heal. And yet when you're trapped in an intense emotion, the pain feels endless. Sadness seems to become a permanent shadow, and anxiety convinces your mind that this is how things will be for the rest of your life. But that is a lie your own mind invents when you are submerged in that intensity. The nature of any emotion is to appear and then fade away, no matter how deep it is, how overwhelming it seems, or how much it hurts in this precise moment. Emotions work like the inner weather of your soul. They arrive, they settle in for a period, and then they go. Sometimes they last hours, sometimes days, even weeks, but they never stay forever. The real problem is that when you're inside that emotional state, your brain loses its sense of time. Only the now exists, and that now feels total, absolute, definitive, as if it were never going to end. And that is exactly where desperation is born, not from the pain itself, but from the belief that this pain has no way out. Your real challenge is to resist that belief. Because what makes an emotion unbearable is not its intensity, but the idea that it will be eternal. It is the fear of being trapped in it forever. But if you can remember, even in the middle of chaos, that this too shall pass, something inside you softens. The pain may not disappear immediately, but it no longer has the same power over you. You have survived every emotional storm that has hit you up until today. There were moments when you thought you wouldn't make it, that you couldn't go on. And yet here you are. That is not a coincidence. It is living proof that emotions do not have the final word. You do. Trust in the natural process of your mind. Just as your body heals cuts without you having to command it, your inner world also knows how to return to balance. It just needs time. And you need patience with yourself. You need to remember that nothing you feel right now represents your definitive destiny. It is simply a transitory state within a much wider path. The next time an emotion crushes you, remind yourself of this truth. Nothing in this world is permanent, not even that which burns inside you today. And before we continue, if these words resonate with you, I invite you to take one more step. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Here we share tools to strengthen your mind, calm your thoughts, and reconnect with your inner power. If you long to live with more clarity, serenity, and emotional freedom, this space is for you. Lesson 2. Your mind exaggerates everything you fear. Your mind has an impressive ability to magnify whatever scares you. More than once, you've imagined the worst possible scenario. That uncomfortable conversation that ends in disaster. That decision that ruins your life, that mistake that haunts you forever. Your mind builds real catastrophes with so much detail that they feel real. You feel them as if they had already happened, and you end up living in fear of something that doesn't even exist yet. But you need to know something essential. The vast majority of those scenarios never actually happen. Never. Your brain was not designed to predict the future with accuracy. It was designed to protect you from danger. And to achieve that, it exaggerates threats, amplifies risks, and shows you terrifying images to keep you on alert. That mechanism made sense thousands of years ago, when dangers were real, physical, and immediate. But today, in a world where most threats are emotional, social, or psychological, that same function ends up betraying you. It paralyzes you with fears that exist only in your imagination. Anticipatory fear is almost always more painful than reality itself. Think about how many times something terrified you, and when you finally faced the situation, it was not even a fraction as terrible as you had imagined. Maybe it was uncomfortable, maybe difficult, but you survived, and you probably discovered that you were stronger than you thought. Your mind's capacity to create suffering is astonishing. It can torment you with possibilities that will never occur. It can rob you of sleep over baseless worries. It can turn your present into hell because of an invented future. But that same power can be used in your favor. You can learn to notice when your mind is exaggerating. You can ask yourself whether what you fear is based on facts or assumptions. You can distinguish between a real danger and one manufactured by anxiety. And when you make that distinction, fear loses its strength. But about not allowing your imagination to turn every little doubt into a gigantic threat. It's about giving clarity back to your mind, the clarity that fear steals from it. The next time your mind starts building the worst possible scenario, stop and ask yourself, do I have real evidence that this will happen? Almost always the answer will be no. And that simple question brings back the calm you were needing. Lesson 3. Widen your view and change your perspective. When you're too close to something, that something takes up your entire vision. A problem can seem like a mountain impossible to climb. A worry can block all your other thoughts. An emotion can devour your whole day. But if you take a few steps back, if you change the angle from which you look, you'll discover that what seemed enormous becomes much more manageable. Perspective transforms everything. Your mind works like a camera. It can zoom so deeply into a single detail that this detail ends up becoming your entire reality. Or it can pull back and show you the whole picture. The problem is not what you're observing, but the distance from which you're observing it. When you get too close to your fear, your pain, or your frustration, you lose sight of everything else. And that is where that feeling of suffocation is born. That idea that there is no way out. But your suffering does not represent your entire life. It is only one part of it. And when you are able to remember that, when you widen your field of vision to include the rest of your existence, something inside you begins to change. The problem is still there, yes, but it no longer defines you. The fear remains, but it no longer paralyzes you. The emotion is still there, but it no longer rules you. Imagine your life as a book full of chapters. This difficult moment is only a few pages, not the whole story. There are chapters you have already lived. That made you stronger. Chapters that taught you something. And chapters yet to come that you cannot even imagine. Reducing your entire existence to this painful moment is forgetting everything else that you are. The breadth of your view determines the size of your suffering. If you only look at the obstacle becomes gigantic. If you only pay attention to the wound seems fatal. But if you can rise up within your own mind, if you can look at your life from a higher level, you'll discover that there is more space than you thought. More air, more possibilities, more alternatives. This is not about minimizing your pain, but about preventing that pain from minimizing everything else. It's about remembering that you are bigger than your worst moment, that your life is broader than your current crisis, that your worth is not measured by what you are going through right now. The next time something consumes you completely, ask yourself if you can step back mentally, even just a little. Not physically, but inside your own perception. Ask yourself, what else exists besides this pain? What would I see if I looked at this situation from farther away? And in that simple act of widening your perspective, you'll regain the control that closeness had taken from you. Because the truth is this: problems grow or shrink, depending on where you place your attention, and you can always choose the angle from which you look. Lesson 4. Suffering doesn't come from the facts, but from your interpretation. Two people can go through exactly the same situation, the same loss and the same rejection and the same failure, and yet one can be left shattered while the other manages to find ways to move forward. The difference, even though the event is identical, lies in the interpretation. In the story each one tells themselves about what happened. Facts are neutral. They happen without intention. But your mind does not allow them to simply occur. It analyzes them, breaks them down, gives them a meaning, and it's that meaning, not the fact itself, that awakens the emotion you feel. The same words spoken with the same intention can deeply hurt one person and barely affect another. Why? Because it is not only about what was said, but about how it was interpreted by the person who heard it. This truth is deeply liberating if you truly understand it. You are not completely at the mercy of what happens outside. You are at the mercy of how you interpret what happens. And that interpretation, that reading, that inner narrative, is something you can transform. When something painful happens, your mind looks for explanations. It needs to make sense of it, to understand, to organize. And many times, without even noticing, it chooses the harshest explanation, the one that hurts you most, the one that paints reality in the most painful way. Those interpretations amplify suffering, they enlarge it, they multiply it, they make it almost unbearable. But none of those readings is the only possible version. They are just one way of seeing what happened, and it may not even be the one that's closest to the truth. Maybe what happened had nothing to do with you. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was circumstances completely beyond your control. Maybe it was simply part of the unpredictable nature of life. The deepest suffering is born when you turn a fact into a sentence about yourself, when you take what happened and use it as proof of your lack of worth, of your inadequacy, of your incapacity. That is where the pain stays embedded. That is where it becomes chronic. But if you can separate the fact from your interpretation, if you can see that what happened does not define who you are, the pain changes its nature. It still hurts, yes, but it no longer destroys you. Because you've stopped believing that this event is an absolute truth about your identity. Rewriting your narrative is not lying to yourself. It is being fairer with yourself. It is stopping the automatic habit of choosing the version that hurts you most. It is asking yourself if there is another way to understand what happened, a way that doesn't destroy you, a way that allows you to learn without erasing yourself. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And the difference between the two lies in the story you choose to tell yourself. Lesson 5. Your true power only lives in your mind. There is something we tend to look for in the wrong place: control. We spend a large part of our lives trying to control situations, results, and people. We want everything to turn out exactly as we planned, for people to act as we expect, for the world to adjust itself to our desires. And every time that doesn't happen, we feel powerless, frustrated, and eventually defeated. But real power, the true kind, was never outside. Everything that exists outside of you can change at any moment. Circumstances transform without asking for permission. People make decisions that don't depend on you. Plans collapse without any explanation. And if you place your emotional stability on those external variables, you will live trapped on an emotional roller coaster. You can't get off. Your authentic power, that which no one can take from you, resides in your mind, in how you decide to respond and what meaning you choose to give each situation, in what attitude you take in the face of what you cannot change. That is where your strength lies. That is where your freedom lives. Not in dominating what happens outside, but in governing your inner world. This understanding changes absolutely everything. Because as long as you keep believing that your peace depends on things turning out a certain way, you will be a slave to the unpredictable. But when you understand that your calm depends on how you process what happens, you take back the steering wheel of your life. You cannot control whether someone respects you or not, but you can control whether you allow their lack of respect to determine your value. You cannot control whether you fail at something, but you can control whether that failure destroys you or teaches you something valuable. You cannot control the pain that arrives, but you can control whether you stay trapped in it or find a way to move through it. That line that separates what depends on you and what doesn't depend on you marks the difference between living in anguish or walking with serenity even in the middle of chaos. Because when you stop fighting battles you cannot possibly win, when you let go of the fantasy of controlling the uncontrollable, all your energy is redirected to where it truly matters, to your response, to your choice, to your attitude. And then you discover something revealing. You always had more power than you thought. You were just looking for it in the wrong place. You were looking for it in results when power is in your decisions. You were looking for it in other people's reactions when power lives in your own clarity. You were looking for it outside when it was always inside you. The next time you feel powerless or out of control, stop and ask yourself, which part of this situation is really in my hands? And instead of wasting your energy on what you cannot change, invest all your strength in what you actually can choose. That is the only fight worthy of your effort, and it is the only one you can always win. Lesson 6. Find out what is truly in your hands to change. Have you noticed how much energy is wasted trying to change things that do not depend on you? You worry about what others think. You turn other people's decisions over and over in your mind. You wish situations from the past had been different. That kind of drain isn't always obvious, but it is constant. And at the end of the day, you feel exhausted, even though you haven't really achieved anything. The reason? You've been investing your mental strength in territory that doesn't belong to you. There is a simple question, but an absolutely transformative one that can change the way you face any situation. Which part of this is truly in my hands to change? Every time something troubles you, every time you feel overwhelmed, every time anxiety begins to rise inside you, asking yourself this question can give you back the clarity you're looking for. It's like a filter that separates what is real from what is imaginary, what is possible from what is impossible, what deserves your attention from what only steals your peace. And when you honestly identify what depends on you and what doesn't, everything starts to look clearer. What is not in your hands loses power over you, and what is in your hands becomes your only focus. You cannot control how someone speaks to you, but you can control how you receive those words. You don't always have control over the final outcome of a project, but you do control the effort and dedication you put into it. You cannot manage what others think of you, but you can choose to live according to your values, without needing external approval. Each time you apply this filter, you regain power, because you center yourself and you stop fighting against realities that cannot be changed. You stop wasting your energy on battles lost before they even begin. And all that strength that used to be scattered concentrates where it can truly have an impact on your response and on your attitude and on your choice. This practice is not resignation or passivity. It is strategy. It is clarity. It is stopping being a victim of what you don't control and becoming the owner of what you do control. What you control is always enough to change your experience of life. There is immense freedom in letting go of what does not belong to you, in recognizing the limits of your influence without feeling small because of them. Because those limits do not weaken you, they focus you. They bring you back to your center. They point you toward where your power truly lies. Remember this: your peace can never depend on something that is not in your hands to change. Lesson 7. Choose not to feel hurt and you won't be. This idea may sound impossible. It may even seem offensive at first. You can choose not to feel hurt when someone tries to wound you. You can learn to handle the pain others attempt to provoke with their words, their actions, or their indifference. And even though it might be hard to believe, this is completely true. No one can hurt you without your inner participation. I'm not saying that what happens on the outside isn't real. I'm not denying that there are cruel words, unfair actions, and deeply painful situations, all of that exists. But the deep emotional wound, the one that stays with you for days, weeks, or months, needs more than the external event to remain. It needs you to give it a meaning. It needs you to decide that what happened defines you, diminishes you, or marks you. And if you can give it that meaning, you can also stop giving it. When someone insults you, the words come out of their mouth and reach your ears. Up to that point, they are only sounds. But then the decisive step happens. Your mind interprets those words. It assigns them a value, a weight, an intention. And it is there in that inner processing where the wound truly begins. Because if you decide that those words do not reflect who you are, if you choose to see that they come from the other person's frustration and not from your lack of worth, the pain dissolves before it reaches you. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means training your perception to distinguish between what truly harms you and what can only affect you if you allow it. It is about developing an inner strength that does not depend on how you are treated, but on how you choose to receive that treatment. The truth is that you face difficult situations all the time. Some leave deep marks, others barely touch you. The difference is not always the intensity of what happened, but the interpretation you build afterwards, the story you tell yourself, the emotional weight you decide to give it. Training this ability is not easy. It takes awareness, practice, and the capacity to stop the automatic reaction long enough to ask yourself, do I really need to carry this pain? Do I really want to turn this into a lasting wound? Many times the honest answer is no. Many times the pain you're carrying is optional. You cannot control what others do, but you can control how much space you give them inside you. You can decide that their poison will not enter your system. You can decide to stay firm, even when everything seems designed to throw you off balance. And that choice, repeated over and over again, becomes your best protection. The next time something hurts you, before you react, ask yourself whether this truly deserves to become an emotional scar. Ask yourself whether you can allow yourself to let it pass without letting it mark you. And you'll be surprised to discover that, far more often than you think, the answer is yes. Lesson 8. Evaluate with reason, not catastrophizing. Your mind has two ways of evaluating what happens. One leads you to clarity, the other drags you into chaos. And without realizing it, most of the time you choose the second one, not because you want to suffer, but because that pattern has become such a deep habit that it seems like the only way to see things. Catastrophizing is that inner voice that turns every problem into a tragedy, that turns any mistake into proof of total failure, that interprets every setback as a sign that disaster is about to arrive. Catastrophizing does not assess the situation fairly. It inflames it, exaggerates it, distorts it, and covers it in darkness until you can no longer see any way out. And the worst part is that this catastrophic evaluation feels true. It feels logical. It feels like you are being realistic about how serious everything is, but you're not. It is your mind trapped in a mental pattern that increases your pain unnecessarily. Reasonable evaluation works in a completely different way. It doesn't deny the problem, it doesn't minimize it, but it doesn't turn it into something it is not. It observes the situation exactly as it is. It identifies what can be done, acknowledges what is outside your control, and from that clarity, decides how to respond. No dramatics. No exaggerations. No invented threats. Just the firmness that comes from seeing reality without distortion. Every time something goes wrong, you can take two paths. The path of catastrophizing, where you turn an event into proof that everything is lost, or the path of reasoning, where you ask yourself, what is really true? How serious is this really? What can I do right now? What is in my hands? The problem with catastrophizing is not just that it makes you suffer more, it's that it paralyzes you. When you see everything as an imminent tragedy, you don't see any possible solution. You give up before you even start because your own perception convinces you that there is no way out. And many times, there was a way out, but your way of looking kept you from seeing it. Training a balanced mind is a matter of practice. Every time you notice that your inner evaluation is loaded with automatic negativity, stop and ask yourself, am I being fair with this situation? Am I seeing facts or interpretations? Is there another way to see this that doesn't involve a catastrophe? It's not about forcing yourself to be positive, but about regaining the objectivity that fear distorts. It's about giving your mind back its ability to evaluate without adding extra layers of drama. And when you learn to look at things this way, you discover something surprising. Most situations are manageable. Most problems have some kind of solution, and the few that don't, at the very least, can be faced with dignity and calm. The way you evaluate defines your emotional experience. If you judge everything from pessimism, you will live trapped in anguish. But if you learn to look from calm reasoning, you'll be able to find peace even in the middle of difficulty. And that peace doesn't come from denying reality, but from seeing it without distortion. Lesson 9. You decide how important each thing is. You are the one who decides how much importance something has in your life. You are the one who determines whether an event deserves to ruin your day, your week, or even your entire month. You are the one who sets how much emotional energy you give to a comment, a rejection, or an unexpected obstacle. That power has always been in your hands. Nothing has a fixed emotional weight on its own. No situation comes with a built-in label that says, "This must hurt," or "This must destroy me." Everything passes through your mind first, and there you decide whether what happened is devastating or manageable, tragic or simply uncomfortable, unforgivable or something you can understand. And that decision, conscious or not, is what determines how much you're going to suffer. Most people live as if events already came with an assigned emotional value, as if they couldn't question it, change it, or adjust it. But that is false. Two people can experience the same loss, and one is left completely broken while the other finds the strength to move forward. Not because one is weaker and the other stronger, but because each one gave a different meaning to what happened. I'm not saying you should minimize everything. There are situations that deserve your pain. There are moments that require your deep reflection, but there are also thousands of small things to which, without noticing, you give exaggerated weight. You hand your peace over to what is insignificant. You allow your mood to depend on things that should slide off you, not drag you down. Every time you react in a disproportionate way, every time something small manages to completely pull you out of balance, you're telling your mind, "This is important. This deserves all my energy." And your mind learns. It records that pattern, and next time, it will react the same or worse. But it also works the other way around. Every time something bothers you and you consciously choose that it does not deserve to steal your calm, you are training a new response. You are educating your mind not to jump automatically at everything that happens. You are reminding yourself that you have control over how much space each thing takes up inside you. That power to assign importance is liberating, and at the same time, it demands responsibility. Liberating, because it means you are not totally at the mercy of external things' responsibility, because it also means that part of your unnecessary suffering has come from you, from your interpretations, from the excessive importance you decided to give to things that did not deserve it. You can no longer blame circumstances alone. Now it's your turn to look at yourself and ask, why did I let this have so much weight? Why did I allow something so small to control my emotional state? Nothing can disturb your inner world without your permission, and you give that permission every time you decide how much something is worth. Choose wisely, always. Lesson 10. Rule your emotions before they rule you. Within you, two forces coexist. One is feeling, the other is thinking. Both are necessary, both have a fundamental role, but only one should have the final word. And if you don't consciously decide which one that will be, the emotional moment, the chaos, the intensity, the impulsive reaction will decide for you. Emotions are powerful. They are intense, fast, visceral. They can ignite in an instant and drag you with them. They can cloud your judgment, twist your perception, and push you toward decisions you will later regret. Not because those decisions are bad in themselves, but because when emotions rule alone, Without the balance of reasoning, they become destructive. Feeling anger is not the problem. Acting solely from anger is. Feeling fear does not make you weak. Allowing fear to paralyze every decision is what immobilizes you. Feeling sadness is deeply human. Letting sadness extinguish your clarity is where you lose control. Ruling your emotions does not mean repressing them. It also doesn't mean denying them. It means leading them. It means recognizing that they are there, that they have something important to tell you, but that they cannot be the only voices at the table when it is time to decide. Emotions speak about the immediate present. They shout, they demand, they complain, but they don't always know what is best for you in the long term. That is where reasoning comes in, not to silence what you feel, but to give it context, to ask the emotion why it's there, what it's pointing to, what it needs, and then to decide from a place that is broader, more conscious, more truly yours. That space between feeling and acting is where your true freedom lives. That small instant where you can observe the emotion without letting it take you hostage when sadness appears. You can feel it without believing it will be eternal. When anger arises, you can acknowledge it without allowing it to control your words. When fear shows up, you can listen to it without letting it write your destiny. That is the balance. Feeling deeply without losing the wheel. Many people confuse mastering emotions with becoming cold or insensitive. But it's exactly the opposite. Mastering your emotions is feeling intensely without breaking. It is honoring what you feel without handing over total control. It is allowing emotions to speak, but not letting them become dictators. The practice is simple, though it requires consistency. Every time an intense emotion appears, observe it, name it, acknowledge its presence. Ask yourself what your reason is saying. Ask yourself which response brings you closer to the person you want to be. Act from that point of balance. It won't always be easy. There will be moments when the emotion feels so strong that it seems impossible not to follow it. But every time you stop, breathe, and choose your response instead of reacting automatically, you will be strengthening your inner leadership. You will be building the character that holds your life up when everything inside you wants to collapse. Because mastering your emotions is not about silencing them. It is about learning to live with them without letting them destroy you. It is being strong enough to feel without breaking. It is taking back control from the only place it has ever truly been, inside you. You've made it this far, and that says a lot about you. It means you are not looking for easy answers, that you are not willing to live at the mercy of what you feel, that you long for something deeper, more authentic, more lasting. These 10 lessons are not just concepts. They are real tools, new ways of relating to yourself that can completely transform your experience of life. Because mastering your emotions is not about repressing them or denying them. It is about learning to observe them without letting them drag you away. It is about recognizing that you can feel intensely without losing your center. It is about remembering that you are not your emotions. You are the consciousness that observes them. No emotion lasts forever. Your mind tends to exaggerate what you fear. Perspective changes the size of everything. Suffering is born more from your interpretations than from the facts themselves. Your authentic power lives in your mind. And every day you can choose what deserves your peace and what does not. It will not be an easy path. There will be moments when you forget all of this, when the emotion wraps around you completely and you feel lost again. But every time you remember, every time you stop, breathe, and consciously choose your response, you will be building something unbreakable, an inner strength that no one can tear down. Life will continue bringing challenges because that's how life is. But you will no longer have to lose yourself inside them. You will be able to walk through each challenge with strength, with clarity, and with the certainty that no matter what happens, there is a place of calm within you that you can always return to. And if this message helped you see your emotions from a different perspective, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Here we learn to live more present, wiser, and freer. We all deserve a life where we are not prisoners of our own emotional states. And if you're ready to walk that path, This space is your refuge. I'll see you in the next reflection. In the meantime, remember this: emotions come and go, but you remain, and that is your true power.